There is no way that this attack was launched without not just US approval, not just a green light from the US, but I would argue as well US participation in some capacity or another. I'm not saying that they participated in the dropping of the bombs and the delivering of the attacks yesterday and so on, but the US supplies all those weapons that Israel used. The US, I'm sure, was actively participating in intelligence gathering and so on. And most importantly, it seems like, based on Trump's comments and I would say, logic, that the US participated in this plan by, pretending as if they were serious about negotiations with Iran. Clearly, from the perspective of the US, they think of this attack as something that will give them leverage in their negotiations with Tehran. So essentially, they believe that this attack will frighten Iran, that it will basically send them the message that only submission to US demands will save them from death and destruction, and that therefore they will now come to the table and simply just acquiesce to everything that the US is demanding of them. I believe this is fanciful thinking, to say the least. I don't think it will provide them with the leverage they seek. Iran, I doubt, will show up to the planned meeting on Sunday. I don't think they're going to show up to any negotiations anytime soon. You have to keep this in context, a larger context, which I know the Iranians do. They already had a deal with the US. There was already an agreed deal. Trump, during his first administration, broke that deal. He withdrew the US from that deal. And now, when he is coming back to negotiate with them during his second term, he pretended for months to be actually pursuing a real negotiation, when in fact he was coordinating with the Israelis on the strike. So essentially, how can you trust a negotiating partner like that? The simple answer is that you can't. I doubt that this will give the Americans and the Trump administration what they seek. And I don't foresee a deal happening in the near future, that's for certain. So first of all, Israel has been saying for over 30 years, I think, that Iran is going to develop a nuclear weapon in the next few years, right? So they've been pushing that line for a very long time. And it hasn't become true yet. So, essentially, this will be debated, I think, within Iran. I don't have any particular insight into these debates within policy-making circles within Iran, but I suspect that there are two camps. One that will say, I think the cost of pursuing a nuclear weapon is too high. We face too great of a threat, existential threat from the Israelis and the Americans, and therefore we should not pursue it. I think another camp will say, if we had a nuclear weapon, they wouldn't dare launch an attack like this. It's hard to know which of these camps will win out. I think that if you are looking at this from a purely rational perspective, you would have to conclude that this world operates on might makes right, that having a nuclear weapon gives you the ability to assert your autonomy and your freedom, and that pursuing it and doing it as fast as possible is the right course of action. I'm not necessarily agreeing with this. I'm for nuclear disarmament for everyone. That is the world that I want to see, is there's no nuclear weapons in the hands of any country. Most importantly, the US, which is still the only country in the world that has used a weapon of mass destruction. So there should be no nuclear weapons. But unfortunately, in the world that we live in, from the basis of power dynamics, the rational course of action for Iran right now would be to develop a nuclear weapon in order to prevent these kinds of attacks. Unfortunately, that's where we are. There is no way that this attack was launched without not just US approval, not just a green light from the US, but I would argue as well US participation in some capacity or another. I'm not saying that they participated in the dropping of the bombs and the delivering of the attacks yesterday and so on, but the US supplies all those weapons that Israel used. The US, I'm sure, was actively participating in intelligence gathering and so on. And most importantly, it seems like, based on Trump's comments and I would say, logic, that the US participated in this plan by, pretending as if they were serious about negotiations with Iran. There are reports coming out with Israeli officials claiming that the theater that they put on of disagreements between the U.S. and Israel on the question of Iran was in fact just that, a theater of deception that was trying to lull Iran into a sense of complacency in order to launch this kind of attack. This sort of operation doesn't happen overnight. It's not like Israel planned this in a couple of days or a couple of years. Reports are saying it was being planned for 1 year. That makes sense to me, that it would take this long to plan something like this. And there's zero chance that the U.S. was not aware of this planning and, like I said, actively participating in it. I think most reasonable heads in the region will understand that the U.S. played a role in this. I think most public opinion is in the Arab world, in Iran, is reaching the conclusion that the U.S. is of course not a neutral player in the region, that it has its imperial interests in the region, and that it cannot be counted on to mediate peace and stability in the region. That the U.S.'s notion of peace and stability means really that U.S. interests are first and foremost met, and then after that, if the aspirations of the people align with those interests, fine. If they don't, then those people can be crushed. That's what the U.S. actually is, and I think more people in the region will see it that way. So it depends on which Palestinian political group you're looking at. I think the Palestinian Authority will continue to look for the U.S. For support, even as the U.S. continuously uses and abuses the Palestinian Authority for their own purposes, for the purposes of cementing and expanding Israeli settler colonialism. The Palestinian Authority somehow, for some reason, continues to believe that it needs the U.S. or can use the U.S. to achieve its stated goal of a two-state solution. That is fanciful thinking. It has not happened. It will never happen. The U.S. does not care about a sovereign Palestinian state. The Israelis have flat out said they don't want it and will never agree to it. But I suspect that the Palestinian Authority will continue to align itself with the U.S. In the hope of getting the crumbs of empire, which they will never receive, only enough crumbs to fatten the pockets of the political and economic elites within the Palestinian Authority. I think for Hamas, they will continue to view the attack on Iran as part and parcel of the attack on Gaza. They will, I think Hamas will continue to talk to the U.S. in hoping of getting a ceasefire agreement. But I don't think Hamas is expecting too much from that at the moment. Let's not forget, a few weeks ago, they released an American hostage as a good faith gesture towards the Americans, hoping that the Americans would deliver on their promises of an incoming ceasefire. I think that everybody should see that the Americans are deceivers, that they play a game of deception, that their word means nothing, that they plan to pursue their own imperial interests without any care whatsoever for the lives of the Palestinian people or anybody else in the region. So I think the Palestinian strategy will continue to be divided among the different political groups, showing once again the desperate need for political reconciliation in Palestine, which is still far from reality and off the table, I would say, at this point, unfortunately. In terms of the broader Arab public opinion, the Arab population, I mean, you can see it in the convoy, the Sumud convoy, the reception of that convoy by the people. There is intense feelings of solidarity and sympathy with the Palestinians. There are intense feelings of hostility towards Israelis, the Israeli state and the U.S. State, precisely because they are the aggressors in this case. By definition, settler colonies and empires such as Israel and the United States, respectively, they are always the aggressors. They are the ones that are trying to uproot people from their land, change the political and social and cultural demographic of a region. So I think the region, the people of the region will continue to support Palestine. Unfortunately, their states and the regimes in the Arab world will continue to acquiesce to U.S. demands. They're all very much doing that right now. Jordan is participating in the defense of Israel from Iranian drones. Egypt, and now we hear reports that in Libya, the authorities in Libya, who are the authorities that are aligned with Egypt and the U.S. and the UAE, are preventing the Sumud convoy from moving forward into Rafah. So the regimes continue to function in a way that pleases U.S. imperialism and Israeli settler colonialism, but goes against the interests and aspirations of their own people, and certainly the aspirations of the Palestinian people. Eventually, this contradiction is going to come to a head. These regimes will not be able to continue to do what they have been doing forever. The anger that is felt by their own population is rising, and it's rising towards them, in addition to anger towards Israel and the US. So I think we're heading towards much more instability, much more turbulent times, more genocide, and more war for the foreseeable future, unfortunately.